All right, today we're going to dig into some of the most common, yet super costly gardening mistakes that can quietly sabotage all your hard work. So, let's get right to it.
You know that feeling, right? You've planted everything with so much hope, only to watch your vegetables kind of struggle, or get sick, or just not really thrive. And you're left just scratching your head wondering what on earth went wrong.
I mean, you did everything by the book. You watered, you weeded, you might have even given your plants a little pep talk. But if your harvest was, barely enough to fill a single basket, the problem might not be your effort at all, but actually your garden layout.
Yeah, the problem might be way simpler than you think. It often comes down to 7 common plant pairings that are secretly working against each other. Understanding these is an absolute game changer that can turn a super frustrating garden into a flourishing one. Let's start with the first bad pairing.
So first up, we have what is basically a classic case of family drama happening right there in your soil. We're talking about the nightshade family, where, as it turns out, close relatives can sometimes be the worst of enemies.
And here are our first 2 culprits, tomatoes and potatoes. They are like cousins in the plant world. And believe it or not, that close family relationship is exactly what causes the problem. The conflict here is really simple. They are both susceptible to the exact same diseases, especially that dreaded late blight, which can literally wipe out an entire crop overnight. If one plant gets sick, it's almost guaranteed to spread to the other. So the solution is pretty much non-negotiable. You've got to plant them in completely separate beds.
Okay, next up are the competitors. Now these are the plants that go head-to-head, fighting it out for all the essential resources, like nutrients and water. Or sometimes they even attract the very same pests. Our next matchup is between the super productive legume family, that's your beans and peas, and the pungent allium family, which includes onions and garlic. You'd think they could get along, but nope, it's a definite no-go. What's happening here is basically a form of hidden chemical warfare. Onions and their relatives release these substances into the soil that can seriously stunt the growth of your beans and peas. So for those full, healthy pods you're dreaming of, give them their own dedicated space, far, far away from the onion patch.
Okay, this next one, it surprises a lot of gardeners. Corn and tomatoes. I mean, one grows tall, the other vines out, but their shared weakness is what makes them truly terrible neighbors. And this just perfectly illustrates the problem. Both of these plants are absolute magnets for the exact same pest, the corn earworm, which, what do you know, also happens to love burrowing into tomatoes. So planting them together is like setting out a giant, all-you-can-eat buffet for bugs. The simple solution is to separate them to break that pest cycle.
And here we have another battle of the heavyweights. In one corner, you've got the cabbage family. So think broccoli, cauliflower, kale. And in the other corner, the nightshades are back again, this time with tomatoes and peppers. Their big conflict is all about appetite.
Now, to really get why this is a problem, we need to know this term, heavy feeders. These are plants that are just incredibly hungry for nutrients in the soil, especially nitrogen, to fuel all their rapid growth. And yep, both of these plant families fall squarely into this category.
So what happens when you plant these 2 groups of heavy feeders side by side? Well, they end up in this fierce competition for food. And the result? Everybody ends up a little bit weaker and less productive. Just give each family its own comfy bed, and they'll both grow way stronger without the constant struggle.
All right, our final competitive pairing features those sprawling vines like cucumbers and squash going up against the humble potato. While they're both garden favorites, they simply demand way too much of the same resources to coexist peacefully.
This pairing faces a double threat. First, they are in a really direct and intense competition for both nutrients and water. And second, potatoes can actually increase the chances of your cucumbers developing fungal diseases. So the lesson here is to keep those sprawling vines far, far away from your potato patch.
All right, let's move on to our final category, which honestly is maybe the most fascinating of all. These are the inhibitors. We're talking about plants that don't just compete, they actively release chemicals to stop their neighbors from growing at all. And the number 1 offender in this category is fennel. While it has that beautiful feathery foliage and a really lovely licorice flavor, it does not play well with others. In fact, it's notoriously antisocial.
Yeah, the source material gives it the absolute perfect nickname, the garden bully. And believe me, this isn't an exaggeration. Fennel has a powerful and very negative effect on nearly everything you plant near. And here's why.
Fennel literally releases chemicals from its roots. It's a process called allelopathy that actively suppresses the growth of other plants. The only safe way to grow this bully is to completely isolate it in its own pot or a lonely corner of the garden, far away from everything else.
Our final incompatible pair involves a pretty serious long-term investment. Asparagus. I mean, this perennial can produce delicious spears for up to 20 years, but planting it with the onion and garlic family can really compromise its future.
The allium family actually has an inhibitory effect on asparagus, which leads to weaker growth and thinner spears over time. And because an asparagus bed is a multi-year commitment, you have to protect that investment. Give it a permanent home, and just be sure to keep all your onions and garlic a very safe distance away.
And there you have it, 7 simple pairings to avoid. But you know, this isn't just about preventing problems. It's really about unlocking your garden's true potential. So let's look at the big picture of what this knowledge gives you.
Just by rearranging your garden plan a little bit, you're setting yourself up for so much more success. You're going to see bigger, healthier harvests, you'll deal with fewer pests and diseases, and you'll experience a whole lot less frustration. It really transforms gardening from a struggle into a much more enjoyable and productive hobby.
Just remember, a little bit of planning goes a long, long way, because a cooperative garden is a productive one. So think about your own garden plan. Which of these pairings will you rearrange this season? Happy planting, everyone!